We will most likely shut the doors. Lisa?
I'm just like, I said.
You can be, Lisa, if you'd like, in case there is somebody that asks a question later on that you had.
Just like environmental stuff you said, Michelle, I just had a question about it. No, I just want to make sure I understand the question. And then it's probably easier for us to.
I'm like, it's in there now.
Oh, yeah, no, and that's why I just wanted, no. And that's all I just wanted to understand, so we can look at it after.
So.
Oh.
Oh,
knowing
yes.
the best way to keep the document control. I wasn't sure if you could add something to it.
Yeah, so I kind of added these two.
Okay.
Just to say that. These sentences. Particularly just the sentence basically.
Yeah, the only thing because I wasn't sure what was changed, when I opened it, was if that's would be the reference to
so just let me know, because right now it's just showing this, and when you're ready to speak, I'll make sure the camera's which is why on. It's kind of.
and it's probably.
It was also.
Once you get back, we'll start.
So we'll go to network. I'll explain yeah, it's all whatever you want to do. I'll just show you where there might be some other reference to it. So as long as because it's better for you to know because you're going to be like changes.
It was just
Yeah. No, that's good. Yes. Okay. No, that makes sense. Okay, but I'll take a look after that.
I think that's. Oh, and I had site list. That's the only thing that changed since. And again, all I did was into this what I call. And again,
That or as long as it's in there.
Yeah. But it's basically to cover these two. Well, those three. Yeah, I kind of threw that in there. But,
No. And we'll after this, I'll show you a couple little minor.
Yeah. Oh my God.
But this is a really good example of as you report here on this that this is a great small thing to start with.
Yeah.
And then so that's perfect.
Yeah, they were getting into the aligning things, and I'm like, no, I need to print something. We'll have some other time, I guess.
Yeah, no.
Same as like those.
You're retired, so
They are. CCCs, right?
Yeah,
I don't
CDCs
know.
because it's all.
Yeah. I don't know if we were gonna try to put them to match.
I don't think we normally do in ours.
I would say no, because
it can't.
Yeah.
It's all
Good. Yeah. Oh, no. I brought my laptop because I don't know. That spreadsheet was a little small. I'm like, do you know what I mean? I printed it and then
People just coming in, so once they come in, we'll close and. Afterwards, if there's anybody interested in leafing through them, you can let them.
I don't know if somebody.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Peter Donovan just signing in here.
That's a good question. If people want them, they can go.
We'll raise that and find out what it costs us, and won't make anything on it, but we'll cover our costs.
Yeah.
Right. You can probably tell me what that usually amounts to.
I feel like you just covered the cost.
Right. cover the, a lot of people are gonna download them, but.
Yeah.
George, could I get you to get the door? Check one. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the stakeholder presentation. We're here this afternoon to welcome Amy from CBCL and also to introduce the document for everybody's ability to download, review, and comment. Currently, the objective of the project, the town doesn't have a general specification. As those who have worked at the town in the past, we have used a municipal spec that was generated by the consultant in the past, and we knew that eventually it was going to come a time we would want to have our own standard specification. We currently still do have our older version of the subdivision development guidelines as a reference. And each consultant, when they came into the town to do work, they would prepare their own template and they would use town-specific terms and conditions. The objectives of this here project was to have consistency between those types of tenders, to make those specifications available and applicable to the town of Quispamsis, to be in line with the industry practices, and to standardize the process. There's also the ability to provide some clarity on inspection requirements and as well the final approval of work. Today we're introducing this specification. It's intended to be a notification, not a consultation. We want to expose stakeholders to this process and describe the specification review period. If you visit our website, you will be able to download a copy, and as well there'll be a form section for you to provide comments with respect to the clauses, and then the comments we would expect by June 17th.
Okay, thanks, Mark. My name's Amy Winchester. I've been at CBCL for almost 20 years now, mostly in the St. John office, and I've worked with the town of Quispamsis and some other municipalities. So we've been working with Mark and the team to develop these municipal specifications, largely based, as Mark said, on the existing subdivision guidelines and specifications, and then updated based on knowledge around Atlantic Canada from some of the other specifications that are out there. And, you know, one of the things that Mark said to us at the very beginning was, we want to make this a document that people are comfortable with, used to seeing, industry standard. So the intent wasn't, although this is town of Quispamsis specific, it was actually meant to bring it more in line with what typically happens in industry out there for the projects. So we definitely considered the users of the document. So the town could be the user of the document. So when the town's putting out its own specifications, developers would be using this to see what some of the requirements are. The consulting folks would use this document, and then obviously contractors and suppliers. One of the changes, and we'll go through some of the other specific changes, but the decision was to base this one on CCDC 18. So that's the terms and conditions. That's the basis for the contract. We did work with the town to come up with supplementary conditions to CCDC 18, so they're in there. And then the other thing to note, that this particular specification is primarily for the main civil works. So if you're doing a unique project, there could be some components of this that you would use, and you would add in project-specific specifications. But this is primarily for all the road work and the piping work and some of those other common pieces of work happening in the municipality. So just a quick overview of the way the specification is set up. If you're familiar with the City of St. John specs and how they do things, it's very similar, so that there are parts of the spec that can be edited by the user, so the town or the consultant, whoever's putting the job out to tender. And then the technical specifications cannot be edited. Those are things that are going to be standard, and that we'll talk about update process the same way the city does it. The town will have an update process annually to go in and address anything throughout the year that might need to be updated. And then, as I mentioned, for anything that's unique to a certain project, there's the ability to add specific specifications or additional specifics to a project as well. So the way it's set up, and I don't know how well you can see this on the screen, but basically the front end, Division 0 and Division 01, can all be edited. So there's already sections in there. The editing part, I mean, obviously the very, very front end, the tender form and all of those things have to be filled in, dates, so on would have changed based on the project description. When we get into the general requirements, a lot of that stuff's standard. The town has reviewed it all. They're happy with the requirements, but there's some stuff in there that may not be applicable to everything. So there's spec notes throughout it that you're able as a user to go through and decide what will stay in and what might come out, and where there's things that you might want to have a bit more discussion. One of the examples on the environmental side of things, not every project needs intensive environmental plans associated with it. So again, project specific, you'll see some notes in there about developing the need for the particular project, and if a Department of Environment has some extra requirements. And then you can see all the standard technical specifications that have been developed. And so those ones wouldn't be something that the user of the document can change. And we'll talk about comments and questions and how over time that changes can be made. There are also a list of standard details that are developed that are in there. Something that's not on this list, just because there was only so many things we could fit on the screen, is that there was a master transportation plan recently done, and those produced, it was Englobe, I believe, that did it, and there are sections and details that were produced for that particular plan, so those sections are now in the standard spec as well. Thanks, Mark. That's good. I don't know if everybody on the screen can see Mark showing the example. The schedule of quantities is, again, if you are familiar with how the City of St. John does things, where they have a spreadsheet that they have done up for the schedule of quantities, and you can go in as a user and decide what is applicable to the appropriate project and use the pre-built spreadsheet. That is going to be similar to what the town is using. The only thing to make a note, and so that's just a screenshot of one of the pages, the thing to make a note is right now when you download the spec, it's a PDF document, but it will be a spreadsheet. So if you are working on a project, you will be able to have a spreadsheet that you'll be able to use. So not too many more things to add to the presentation, but we did just want to point out a couple of key things. Seems long in the past now, but last year there was a lot of talk about the Construction Remedy Act and all of the changes. And so as we were going through this, we made sure there's changes in this document to reflect some of the new requirements of the Construction Remedy Act. Another part, and Mark alluded to this at the beginning, was something that the town was very particular on. They really want to make sure that work does not start until approval of the project has been granted. And so there's some more wording in there to provide more weight to that. The other thing is related to the professional engineering and the design. Designs need to be designed by, stamped by, reviewed by, approved by engineers, and that includes throughout the life of the project. So that doesn't mean you have an engineer that does a design, puts a stamp on it, and walk away. When the work is being done, the engineer is still tied to that and is still going to be required, especially if there's changes made. So there's some different wording throughout the document on that. And then just things on testing responsibility, what the town will do, what the consultant's responsible, the contractor. There's some clarifications in there, as well as clarifications on the inspection requirements. So getting to the end of the presentation. So right now, the document is going to be posted through the Quispam website. So it'll be a PDF, and I know there's copies here, but you can download it. If you have any questions and comments, you can provide those over the next month. But the intent is this is definitely going to be a document that has to be a living document. So it's going to be reviewed, it's going to be updated. There's a log that the town has to use as comments come in. Can this product be added to the list of approved products? We find this clause too limiting and we want to do something different. So whatever those questions, comments, suggestions are, they can come in, the town will keep a log, we'll review it, and then once a year, we'll go and, if warranted, we'll make the change and reproduce the specifications. And I believe, I don't think it's completely live at the moment, but Mark can jump in here, that there's going to be on the website a link in order to have access to the specification and also the ability to provide the comments through the website. So I think the only other part here is just the timing, and most of the information is on the screen, but the plan is come the fall, if you're, like the town themselves, as they start doing projects, will use this spec. Consultant, as they're starting to do capital projects, will use this spec. And then in the near term, there are the comment period open to see if there's anything major that should be changed before that official spec is released for 2023. The other ones, and Mark, I'll let you jump into there. One of the things that's in the process of being modified are the subdivision guidelines. So if you're familiar with them, the document is associated with bylaw 35, which is the subdivision guidelines and specs. So the specs are coming out of there. And then it's also that document is getting a refresh to make sure it matches with the new specification and some of the other things we talked about. And I think that's the last slide, so I'll let Mark jump back in.
Thank you, Amy. If you were to visit the Quispamsis website today, under the news and notices, you'll see the ability to link to the document. There's also a forms that allows you to provide comments after you have a chance to review the document as well. As indicated, the specs and guidelines will also be the next step. Currently, there's probably going to be some overlap in the general specification as well as the subdivision development guidelines, but the next step in the process will be to reduce those items that are going to be covered within the general specs so that they're not duplicated, and you'll have one place to go to view the standards with respect to materials construction, and another place to go with the guidance on a subdivision development process. I think that's it. So we welcome that some people have decided to come and be in person. We appreciate that we do have some bodies here today. We have a couple of documents for your perusal, and we would also welcome you to visit it. And you also have the ability to visit virtually the YouTube, which has been recorded. And if anybody has any questions, we're open to taking those now.
And we need you to go to the mic so that it can be recorded. I know. If I have to be up here, you have to be up here, yeah.
Thank you, Amy. That was definitely one part of it.
Hi, I'm just wondering about, you said the spreadsheet, there was a spreadsheet. It sounded almost like it was interactive. Does it sort of build itself as you go through? This is what my project's gonna be, and then it would, I've never seen the spreadsheet from St. John's.
Okay,
So I was just
that
more
was
curious than anything.
Yeah, so that was going to be my question, because it's largely based on that. So as you can imagine, when you go through the spec, there's hundreds of potential pay items, but maybe only 50 that are applicable to the project. So it is interactive in a sense that then it's possible to only check off the ones that are applicable, so that then when you put it out, you're not sending pages and pages and pages for people to bid where there's no quantities associated with it. So, yeah.
In addition to that, the PDF that everyone will be able to download, it's essentially going to cover what we had prepared, and it is numbered and lettered, even though if you had a contract that you were working on for us and it did not include 150 PVC, for example, you would not include that item, therefore there wouldn't be a letter associated with it. But this here will be a Excel spreadsheet. It is similar to the way the Division 4 or 5 is with the City of St. John. It is able to be the columns chosen and be able to be filtered to the units that have a measurement. Those that don't have a measurement will come out zeros, therefore will not hold that particular item. So it is similar if you've used it. If you haven't, what we most likely will be doing is providing some guidance to those who will be doing contracts with us in the future. Anyone? Anyone else? So again, it was presented both as an open house and virtually. We thought it was still particularly effective to bring people in and get face-to-faces and allow people to have a chance to get a hold of the document, to have a chance to ask questions if need be. We also know that the next month will be important to have a chance to think about it, go through questions. Those who are familiar with the current projects that we've been working on, the content is relatively similar. It's the ability to categorize in an industry standard that's going to allow us all to see the same types of document more fluently and the common use across the board. So